It is Memorial Day 2022. It's Sunday, May 29th. I woke up early. I was watching the 6 o'clock news on Channel 2. Regular morning, just listening to what they were presenting. And then I switched at a commercial break because to Channel 4. And they had a very different storyline. And I was like, that's interesting. Because there's no mention of this very significant issue on Channel 4 on Channel 2. So I taped both of them. And then I went back and forth. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I know, like, on the up and up, if that's, like, unexplained phenomenon, and there's something hush-hush, which is what I feel all humans are, like you're at some surprise party that they know the details about, and you're kept completely in the dark. And then I'm thinking about the changing composition and, like, the changing compost, almost. And then I started toggling between the two. On CBS 2 at 6 a.m., it starts off with John the Weatherman. He's a kid of a veteran from World War II. He mentions that. Then it goes into him mentioning that his dad was so in love with the Army, like he wanted to join after college, and he mentions 3 letters, which I don't know what that means. But they actually, when he went to enlist, they told him that he couldn't, that they had too many lieutenants in that day and age at the Army. Now, I know I was blocked from entering anything service-related in high school. But now to hear that somebody else also in my composition it was blocked is a little confusing. So and now all of a sudden it doesn't feel so up and up. So then I go to number 3, which is then he mentions that Cindy Shue, her father, was part of a Coast Guard. And I'm like, well, her dad was allowed in there. And I'm like, but then I'm thinking about the age gap, and I'm like, all right. And then I toggle over to Channel 4, which is Sunday today in New York. And they're reporting that in Park Slope, there was a solid gold, like, tabernacle, and they decapitated a statue. Now, when you look at the outside, the building itself is shrouded, like my son's school, in this black shroud of, I don't know. I'm not sure what the black shroud means. I know it's significant. I also saw that the clock tower of Big Ben, they also shrouded at some point. They had mentioned that on the television, but I'm not quite sure what significance, like what it actually means in grand schematic of things. Then they mention this particular thievery 3 times. And it's such an ornate and religious piece. And then I'm listening to the words that the reporter uses, and he actually uses the word sacrilegious, which I've really never heard any human ever mention. I happen to know it. I've mentioned it myself, but in more of a drawn conclusion by the way the word is built. So they mention it 3 times. Then they also, on this Channel 4 Sunday Today in New York, they defined what priority of life scale is, which I thought was incredibly important. And then it also speaks of, in New York State, the family courts are in crisis, which I had no idea. I really don't know what they do there. I mean, like, and then one of the Long Island representatives mentions a word that I just tied into what they've got on Fleet Week of confirmation of that they call them the petty, because the man mentions that the family courts are not petty. But there's something going on with this Melissa Russo, who reports for this Channel 4, which is a significant stage name as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can Coptically read. And then it says that there's something going on with the congressional district maps. So I don't know if they're punishing the court calendar because of these congressional district maps and the redistricting of the maps. But what also is interesting is now John and I, both having been withheld from service or being allowed into these things, and he says that he was denied during the Clinton administration. Although I did mention, well, whatever on that with the Clinton tie-in, but then it goes to, if I go back to Channel 2, Mayor Adams is on, and he's got this really, like, he's got this word that he uses that caught my attention called mobilize. Himself and other city members want to mobilize. I'm like, that's a really strong architectural stance and frightening. And then it goes to, there's also a board member about some kind of tax credits with urban housing development and short-term rentals and fraud within that division. They go to interview this woman, and she's a board member. She declines because she says it's under investigation. No idea what that means, considering I haven't been allowed into like any kind of like law clubs or societies or whatever. I don't even know how their court systems are working. Same time, like very island of Dr. Moreau is what the whole thematic of this area feels like. And then it goes into Nassau County, where their police commissioner was on. They have this bit about thieves are now using some kind of technology to look for radio signals. Like they just walk near, they don't have to go in the house, they walk near the front door or the window to try to pick up a radio frequency coming out of a key fob for the car. They clone whatever that radio signal is, walk up to the car, and now they have access to the vehicle and just take off. I mean, like, so, and I know somewhere in radio waves and radio technology and like getting a leg up into like these fields for like this wave of the technology being rolled out and who was ahead of the class and who benefited the most and who was occluded from power positions and being at the front of the class, with that hiring and dissuading people like myself and like John from entering this army in the local area to stay in the know and to have that societal congruence and that fair chance at being able to elect for things, and for the rollout and the wave of money that followed, plus the training and being able to keep one's family and oneself safe. I was withheld from all of that while these people they know how to clone radio signals and how to manipulate the environment to then cause further crime. Again, I mean, these are big issues, and I'm at the end of like, I'm like, I mean, I'm in this like hush hush with like hush, hush, I don't know where's hush funds at that point, and where's, they either got hush puppies and hush funds with a hush hush, and it's really doesn't feel like it's on the up and up. Especially with the changing of the composition and the compost right before this wave of next-gen technology coming out, and who was at the forefront of hiring or dissuading or moving players out of position in a very deceitful manner. So these positions were filled up with other people, and it's no longer advantageous. I mean, it's just drawn all wrong, and it's very evident. But here's what I found this morning on the TV in that order. Okay, so the first piece is from CBS 2 this morning at 6 a.m. At 42.41.
Intrepid Museum with your first alert forecast. Hi, John.
And you know, Cindy, and you do know this, Cindy, the Intrepid is such a gem, such a jewel, such an education, and such a tribute. Every branch of service represented. So this is a Marine Corps Sea Cobra. I mean, look at the serious armament. This is a very sleek, very fast helicopter. This, though, was based on the Huey. Now, this is an Army vehicle, Army armament, and technically it's an Iroquois, but it's called the Huey, and this went into service back in 1959, and the Marines kind of co-opted some of that and incorporated some of the technology in the Huey into their helicopters. Now, I'm obviously an Army kid. My dad was in the Army, WW2. I had an older dad. He was in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, so that's why, obviously, you're drawn to that branch of service. Coming up after weather, we're going to tell you about how important that family connection is. But right now, for your family, great weather. We've got such a break, and it's all because...
All right, at 46:45, he mentions where he wasn't allowed.
Enjoying the city during Fleet Week, but let's not lose sight of Memorial Day either. We'll meet some new friends coming up in a bit. Right now, though, right back to Cindy.
That's so important, John. John, what was Army life for your dad? What was it? What did he talk about?
Oh, he loved it. He loved it. So when I graduated college, he went OCS. I said, I'm going to go enlist. And so I went to enlist. Honest story. And it was back during the Clinton administration. They said, we have too many lieutenants. And they didn't want me to enlist. My dad loved being in the Corps of Engineers.
Oh, that's terrific, John. Thank you. All right, it is 6:47.
My question is, like, how many of us were dissuaded from entering somewhere where we needed to be but might not have known just how much at the time? Now here they define something called star, what is it?
Work
Star
week.
something?
And then Friday,
I don't know.
much cooler with highs back in the 70s.
It's a blue
Memorial
or a
Day is
gold
very
star. I don't know what that
holiday.
means.
It's more than the barbecues. It's more
Or
than
stars
the
of
sales.
service.
Just some perspective for you. 1.4 million active duty service members served. The bottom line tells the other very important part of the story. 1.7 million family members. About 1 million of those are kids. When we talk about stars of service, a Blue Star family, someone with an immediate family member.
So now if certain kids are kept out of service member life, but other people are getting more votes, more this, more that, more petitions, more things that I would never have access to. I mean, like, how does that work in these stars when I was withheld from having this level of stars or people to even access at the same level that other people are functioning at around me. So now changing over channels to channel 4, which is Sunday today in New York, at 31.46. It's, oh, I'm sorry, it's 6.31.46 is when they first mentioned the tabernacle.
Gold, jewel-encrusted tabernacle was stolen from a church in Brooklyn, and police say it's worth $2 million. Take a look. You can see the tabernacle was literally cut out of the altar at St. Augustine's Roman Catholic Church.
Right, that's the other key figure. It's St. Augustine's.
Weekend Today, New York's Miles Miller joins us. He is live from Park Slope with more on the investigation. Miles.
And you can kind of see how this is all possible. This church, you can see, is under construction. There is scaffolding on the church. So it's easy enough for folks to get in under the guise of being construction workers. Pat, that was one of the clues that Felix gave me out here. He's doing his detective work himself. Nothing is sacred anymore, and solid gold stolen from this church here in Park Slope. $2 million worth of solid gold stolen from this church here at St. Augustine's Roman Catholic Church. It's been here for quite some time. It was called the crown jewel of this neighborhood. What we know this morning is that the church is under construction, but thieves broke in sometime between Thursday and yesterday, cutting a hole into the tabernacle and extracting 18-karat solid gold with jewels from its casing. The tabernacle was under the domed archway inside the church. It's a giant gold structure, and it's about the size of a person. It was hidden behind a revolving door, which has a massive cutout in it this morning. Here's what we know this morning. The thieves lifted it out of the church somehow, and we know that they also decapitated the head of a saint structure here as well. Pat, you could say this is sacrilegious to be stealing from an esteemed religious institution this morning, and police are trying to figure out who did this. I'll say this, I've looked all throughout the neighborhood doing my own detective work. No cameras here. You know why?
Oh.
It's Park Slope. And, you know, the rents are high here and the house prices are high.
Yeah.
So, false sense of security.
Security,
so
yeah.
It's going to be hard for police to figure out who did this because, again, no cameras in the neighborhood.
That's a shame, but I'm guessing that somebody will figure it out. All right, Miles, thank you so much. We appreciate your detective work as well. And Felix. And new.
Here's the second mention of it at what would have been 7.05.41.
Thank you, bye. Well, new this morning, a solid gold, jewel-encrusted tabernacle was stolen from a church in Brooklyn. Police say it is worth $2 million. Take a look at this. You can see the tabernacle was literally cut out of the altar here at St. Augustine's Roman Catholic Church. And Weekend Today, New York's Miles Miller's been in Park Slope all morning long. He brings us up to date now. Miles, as you said, I repeat, the Bible says thou shalt not steal. But somebody was really thinking about this. This thing is huge.
Oh, my grandmother would be really impressed with me. There's another psalm in the Bible that says that if you do steal or commit extortion, you should not be happy about it. You shouldn't be prideful about it. But you can imagine those people, when they broke into this church making off with 18-karat gold, had to be giddy walking down this street here in Park Slope, whatever way they got it out of the building. This is a massive structure. Let's show you it. We're here at St. Augustine Church in Brooklyn, where solid gold worth $2 million, a tabernacle, was stolen from inside the church. We know this church is under construction, so it gave them cover to break in, cut a hole into the tabernacle, and extract this gold, and also jewels. The tabernacle was under the domed archway of this church, and we know that the church's structure, this gold structure, is massive, and it was hidden behind a revolving door, which has that massive cutout in it this morning. The thieves had to have gotten it out between Thursday and Saturday. That's when it was first discovered by folks here at the church. They called the 7-8 Precinct Detective Squad, and they also know this morning that the saint that was near...
Did you just say the 78th precinct?
Here, that tabernacle had its head decapitated in all of this. This is a major sin, and that is very interesting because St. Augustine, who this church is named after, came up with the concept of the original sin. So, whoever did this will not have very good fortune and luck if they do not return this massive piece of solid 18-karat gold to this church. Has been in this neighborhood for quite some time, the crown jewel of Brooklyn, the crown jewel of Park Slope. Pat, these folks better give it back to somebody's watching.
You know, we may not know where they are, but some folks think they might know where they're going if they don't bring it back. All right, Miles, appreciate it. Thank you. Blessings. Well, new this.
Now, something happened with the time scale and it slid, but this part's at 00.39.56, and this is the prioritized.
In the wake of Parkland and Santa Fe, it notes the priority of life scale is number 1, innocence, number 2, first responders, with a mandate to stop the kill.
Right, at timestamp 1.09.41, it comes up with this, which is a local crisis.
Well, some New York State lawmakers are taking action to help alleviate massive backlogs in the city's overburdened family court system. This development comes after a News 4 I-Team investigation shed some light on painfully long waits for justice, parents and children waiting months, sometimes years, to resolve custody disputes, child support issues, adoptions, and more. On the Senate floor this week, lawmakers in Albany credited the I-Team as they voted to increase the number of permanent family court judges in the city.
I want to thank in particular the trailblazing reporter, NBC's Melissa Russo, who has unquestionably shown a spotlight on this issue and caused us to act today. I vote aye, Mr. President.
It is an encouraging step forward, but this is not a done deal. Next week, Albany lawmakers go home for the summer. While the Senate voted to add more family court judges, the Assembly has not, despite promises to take action. News 4's government affairs reporter Melissa Russo takes a closer look.
It's time for some more judges for the family court.
That was Assembly Judiciary Chairman Chuck Levine back in February responding to our story about the impact of crushing family court caseloads, children waiting to be adopted.
The waiting is just so agonizing.
Parents separated from children.
So I was just stuck, not able to do anything, and without my baby.
Longtime backlogs got worse during the pandemic when the family court failed to function remotely like other courts did. Some moms in need of child support were told, come back in a year.
It was an emergency. The fact that I, needed to go food shopping.
A gut-wrenching problem in the state of New York, and we are going to do everything we can to fix that problem.
Today, almost 4 months later, with a week left in session, the Assembly's plans are still unclear.
We have that bill, and we are now reviewing that bill.
When the Senate passed their bill this week, adding 4 new judgeships in the city family courts, Senate sponsor Brad Hoylman seemed to be holding Levine to his words.
Chuck Levine says this is a gut-wrenching situation.
Levine, who represents Long Island, says he also wants to explore the need for judges outside the city.
We are reaching out for some statewide input.
That bill needs to be introduced and passed as soon as possible if we're going to see any relief.
With the clock running out,
This court system looks to be very biodiverse.
even family court judges are now stepping forward, asking for help.
We are so frustrated and heartbroken on the bench as judges. We need more hands on deck.
But some suggest there are deeper politics at play. Several lawmakers tell the I-Team there's been resistance within the legislature to support bills that help the court system ever since the state's highest court dealt lawmakers a blow by tossing out their redrawn district maps. Senator Hoylman says he hopes that's not a factor.
I will say there is a lot of consternation, of course, around redistricting. But we can't think of politics right now. We need to think of families.
It would certainly be a shame if the children and families of New York who need timely access to justice didn't get it because of a political grudge match.
No, that's not the way we operate. We are not petty people.
Chairman Levine flatly denies any connection and
Like, again, are those just stock answers, like boilerplate, boiler room? Like, you're told in your career field that you would never, because you're like the most ethical person ever, and if something was going wrong or coming down the pike, like somebody would let you know. And so you just keep sitting there in your chair and just keep giving the wrong answer, even though if you changed your answer, like things could really, whatever.
insisting he's still hoping to address the needs of litigants in the family court.
There's still time.
Only the state legislature has the power to create additional family court judgeships. And the last time that happened was in 2014. Melissa Russo, News 4 New York.
And again, is that like the public forefront? Like NASA, they said the other day on that UFO special that they have like a public face and then they have a private face. So I'm just curious if that's public or privately, like information and the way they run things. It's not clear. Here at 55.03, back to CBS Channel 2.
Full time.
No.
Even if they gave him a $100 fine, that'd be $72,000 a year. And we have major issues. One of the board members, Belinda White, told us,
I'm not making a comment right now because it's under investigation. So when the investigation is complete, then the board will comment.
But the investigation's over. The results are here.
It is ongoing.
Okay. So
No, I have no comment.
the board recently notified residents it sent notices to owners explaining short-term rentals are not permitted. The city controller says a recent audit of a similar HPD program also found a lack of oversight and enforcement.
HPD has to do a better job and then has to put that money to actually affordable homeownership for people who genuinely need it.
HPD says it's asking home.
All right, at 3525, this is where the mayor of New York City says that they want to mobilize.
Mayor Adams said gun violence is devastating communities across America.
There is a loud chorus across our country that is saying enough is enough, and we're going to mobilize this country to move in a direction that our babies should not be shot while in school, that our loved ones should not be shot while in supermarkets.
The mayor also said co-conspirators of gun violence should also be held accountable. He singled out the NRA, saying the group was, quote, celebrating the proliferation of guns at its convention this weekend as the country mourns 2 recent mass shootings.
All right, at 10.00, this is where they show them with the radio frequency of cloning it.
Wide, and now some thieves have figured out a hack to access key fobs. They can then drive away with your vehicle even if the key fob is inside your house. CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff tells us about the simple fixes to protect your property.
Her car was locked. Car keys safely, she thought, in the kitchen. The keys were 100% in the house, and yet somebody was that close and stole our car. Just frightening and appalling. A Nassau County victim doesn't want to be identified, but her recent car theft doesn't fit the pattern. Police have emphasized for months almost all stolen cars had been left unlocked with key fobs left inside. Now owners are locking up, but Tech-savvy thieves have figured out a workaround.
It's a fob extender or a fob enhancer. It enhances the signal between the car and the fob.
It's something we call a replay attack.
Cybersecurity expert Jack Reedy explains the hack. The key fob emits a radio signal. Thieves, often working in pairs, as you can see in this incident in the UK, use a device that captures the fob's signal and extends the range.
They are capturing the radio signal from your key fob.
It smells like
and they are
something's
playing it
burning.
again next to the vehicle, allows them to drive away with it.
What do thieves do once they've driven off without your key? Experts say they've essentially cloned the key fob signal and can use it over and over again to restore your stolen car.
They basically got your fob. It's literally, they're taking a capture of and making a new temporary key fob in their hand.
The unscrupulous individuals of the world have realized that if the fob is close enough, just walk up to the vehicle and jump in, start it up.
An easy fix: store the fob as far away as possible from the car and away from glass doors and windows. Or buy an inexpensive RF blocking box or pouch. It's lined with metal and will interrupt the signal. The Nassau Police Commissioner says add another step to your routine to protect your investment.
Take the fob in, lock the car, and now put it in a pocketbook, put it in a bag, put it in your bedroom. Don't just leave it by the window.
Automakers are already onto this. Newest models have added layers of key fob verification. For all the rest, police request outsmart the thieves. On Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
The National Insurance Crime Bureau told CBS 2 there's no conclusive evidence these devices contribute to the rising auto theft problem because most victims left cars unlocked. But cybersecurity experts say the crime is vastly underreported because victims may have no idea how their car was broken into. Time now is 6:12. Time for a check on your forecast. John Elliott live on the Intrepid Museum with your...
It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.